Hello all, welcome to my channel. In today's video lecture, we will be looking into algal ecology. Now, like the name suggests ecology, it is made up of two terminologies. The Greek term oikos, which means home or place to live, and the English term logi or logos, which means study. So, to define ecology, it is the study of organisms with relation to their environment. And when we talk about algal ecology, it is the study of algae with relation to their environment. This is a term that has been coined by the German zoologist Ernst Haeckel. Now, it is very important for us to study algal ecology because in any biosphere we take, whether it is the xerosphere or the hydrosphere, algae are forming the first stage of plant succession, especially lichens. So, algae are the first stage in any plant succession or even at the base of the trophic pyramid. We have microalgae which are forming the base of the trophic pyramid. So, they have an important role in bioenrichment and in biomagnification. In fact, microalgae are the source of more than half of the world's oxygen due to their photosynthetic activity. We also have larger algae, which are forming an important habitat for fish and other invertebrates, especially in the marine environments. We see that in giant kelp forest. This is a picture of a giant kelp forest, which is a brown algae basically. So we see that these algae grow, some of them grow up to 150 feet long, and they are important because they are serving as a habitat for other organisms like invertebrates or fishes. And here we have Macrocystis, which is a keystone species in these kelp forests. So that is the reason we need to study the ecology of algae, or how the algae live, where they live, what is their habit, and what is their habitat. Before we get into what are the different types of algae based on their habitats, let us just quickly see what are the common distribution patterns of algae. When we see the habitat of algae, they may be either aquatic or terrestrial. Predominantly, algae are found in the aquatic environments. Again, these aquatic environments could be either freshwater or marine water. When we say freshwater, it could be the ponds, lakes, streams, even reservoirs. All of these are coming under the freshwater habitats. When we talk about the marine water habitats, it includes the lakes, oceans, the seas, oceans, estuaries. So all of those are coming under the salt water or the marine water habitat. Now, in these habitats, we again have different zones. So, in a marine water habitat, we have basically divided them into three zones, either supralittoral, intertidal, or sublittoral. Supralittoral is the zone which is above the high tide level, which is within the reach of the waves and the spray of water. So, that above tidal zone, whatever zone is present, that is called as supralittoral. Intertidal is the zone wherein there are in the shores, the area that is exposed to the tidal cycles is called as the intertidal zone. And sublittoral is the benthic environment, which is the low water level, which is up, it can go up to 200 meters deep if it is a clear water zone. That lower water level is called as sublittoral. In case of freshwater, we have lentic and lotic habitats. Lentic is the standing water or still water like ponds or lakes, whereas lotic is the running water like in streams or rivers. So we have algae which are found in all of these zones or all of these habitats. We do have algae in the terrestrial habitat as well, where they can be found attached to rocks or any kind of damp areas, moist areas, where they are found attached to either the walls or to the trunks and barks of trees, or they may be found attached to other animals. So, those are also there under the terrestrial habitat. Now, when we talk about the habit of an algae, habit is the mode of living. Habitat is the place of living. Habit is the mode of living. When we talk about the habit of algae in case of aquatic environment, it could be either free swimming, planktonic or benthic. Free swimming is where it is actively swimming in the water. Planktonic is where it is freely floating in the water, and benthic is when it is attached to the bottom to some substratum. It could be the rock, it could be the seabed, any kind of substratum. When it is attached, we call it as a benthic habit. So we have habit and habitat which are distributed in the aquatic as well as in the terrestrial environment. Now, for this distribution, there are various factors. So, every algae cannot be found in every type of environment because there are several factors that are inhibiting its growth or that are increasing or enhancing its growth. Based on that, we have several factors which can be divided as physical, chemical, and biological factors. The physical factors based on the habitat, we have there are a lot of physical factors. The physical factors of terrestrial algae differ from the physical factors that affect marine algae or aquatic algae. But what I have listed out here are a few of the physical, chemical, and biological factors that can affect every algae. So, apart from these, there are many, many more physical factors. For example, if we talk about aquatic algae, which are found in the marine waters, wave action is a very important factor, or the immersion or the substratum is an important factor. Again, when we come to freshwater algae or freshwater forms, the season, the water inflow, human interference, these are all physical factors, but I have not dealt with over here because I have taken only a few important ones which are critical in any kind of environment. So the first physical factor is substratum. Substratum provides support and surface for the attachment of algae. So the substratum could be sandy, gravelly, rocky, muddy, any kind of substratum, and it could even have a gradient. It could be a slope substratum, it could have a gradual slope or a steep slope. And based on these substratum characteristics, the algal type also will differ widely. The next physical factor, which is very important in any type of environment you take, is temperature. So, higher the temperature, usually the salinity of that particular environment tends to increase. Again, based on the temperature, we have different types of algae that grow. So, we have certain algae which prefer cooler regions, for example, the red algae, or we have the brown algae which prefer the warmer seas. So, based on the temperature, again, the type of algae or the distribution of algae will differ. Illumination, again, a very, very important factor when it comes to algae because algae are photosynthetic. Illumination depends on the depth of the water body or depth of the soil environment, the latitude of the location, the amount of suspended matter that is present. All that decides how much light can penetrate or what is the illumination provided to the algae. And it also depends on the wavelength of light. So we have longer wavelength of light like red, orange, or yellow light, which has lesser penetration, and we have shorter wavelength light like blue or violet, which will penetrate into the deeper layers. So those algae which are found at the bottom of oceans or river bodies, such algae have more of accessory pigments because these accessory pigments can harness the light, that is the blue light or the violet light, and pass it on to the chlorophyll, which is going to do the actual photosynthesis. So based on where the algae is found, based on how which type of light is penetrating through, they have different types of pigments. They have adapted themselves to such places. So not all algae can survive at the lower layers of a water body. Based on the pigments they have, they may be able to survive there. We also have pressure, which is a very, very important factor when it comes to marine algae or aquatic algae because pressure increases with depth. So algae at the deeper regions which are attached to the bottom or which are found in the bottom layers of oceans or rivers will usually have air bladders or air spaces in their tissue, and they'll be thick walled so that they can survive the pressure of that water body. These are some of the core critical physical factors. We also have chemical factors, which is mainly nutrients and pollutants. So, nutrients are the inorganic and organic nutrients which need to be provided to the algae. Mainly, the phosphates and inorganic nitrogen is what is required more because algae are capable of utilizing the carbon from carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. What is more required for them are the inorganic nutrients like phosphates and nitrogen. Also, we have certain algae like diatoms which need a very high content of silica if they have to survive in an environment because diatoms have cell walls or frustules which are made of silica. The pollutants include the spilled chemicals or petroleum products, oil, or the polluted water bodies that again will impact the type of algae that grows. Certain algae will not be able to survive in such polluted water bodies and they will die out. So, the chemical factors which decide or which affect the distribution of algae are the inorganic nutrients and the pollutants. We also have several biological factors which are going to decide what type of algae grow in an environment. For example, the growth of other plants or the presence of grazers. Grazers in aquatic systems include the rotifers, crustaceans, or protozoans, that is the zooplanktons. These are all the grazers and predators which are eating up the algae. So the presence of these grazers or presence of the predators will definitely harm the algae. The algae will not be able to grow there if there are too many predators or too many grazers. We also have competition, which is a very important factor when we talk about the algal growth, because competition is wherein the algae have to compete, they have to fight with another organism, which could be an invertebrate, which could be another plant. It has to fight for, it has to compete for space, it may have to compete for a particular nutrient, and obviously the stronger of the two organisms will win. We also have algal blooms, which is an enhanced extra excessive growth of the algae in waters which are rich in nutrients. That again is a detrimental effect to other organisms like fishes or even other aquatic flora, because the aquatic flora and fauna will be affected by the toxins produced by the algae. They will not get enough oxygen, they will not get enough nutrients. So algal bloom is again a biological factor which decides which algae will grow where or how much of the algae is present. This is just to show you that not always the parasites or not always the predatory organisms are harming the algae. For example, here we have Daphnia magna, which is also called as water flea. Now, these are small planktonic crustaceans which are found in the fresh water. When they take in the colonies of Spherocystis, when they intake the colonies of Spherocystis and the Spherocystis passes through the gut of Daphnia, it is only partially disrupted. Most of the Spherocystis emerges out intact, and in fact, when it is in the gut of Daphnia, it takes in phosphates, it absorbs phosphates. So that actually stimulates the growth of the Spherocystis and stimulates photosynthesis. Basically, even though the population has come down, even though there is loss in the population of the Spherocystis, the algal growth is enhanced due to this grazing or due to this predation. So this is just one example to show you how predation and grazing is important in some cases. It's not always detrimental. It is important factor for the algal distribution. So now let us look into what are the different types of algae, or what is the ecological classification or groups of algae based on their habitat. Now these are the different types of algae that I'll be dealing with. The ecological classification is not a one unique classification or a universally accepted classification throughout. It is just grouping of the algae based on habitat, based on a convenience. So I have grouped them into seven groups. These are hydrophytes, edapophytes, aerophytes, cryophytes, endophytes, and parasites. Let us look into each one of these in detail. The hydrophytes are, like the name says, hydro. These are algae which are found in the aquatic region. So all the aquatic algae are put under hydrophytes, and we have many more subtypes under these. Now, these hydrophytes, like I have mentioned earlier, could be free floating, could be found at the bottom. That means they could be benthic. They could be found in the fresh water. They could be found in the marine water. Again, in fresh water, they could be found in stagnant waters. That is the still water, lentic, lotic. The habitat is varied. But under these, we have divided them into different subgroups based on where they are found. So the first group are benthophytes. Benthophytes are the algae which are the bottom dwellers. An easy thing for you to remember, B for benthophytes, B for bottom dwellers. So benthophytes are the algae which are found at the bottom of any aquatic system. Usually most of the brown algae are bottom dwellers or benthophytic in nature. As you can see here, laminaria, it has been shown in the picture, or we have certain algae like Chara, Fissurella, Nitella, Cladophora. These are all the freshwater benthophytes, whereas the ones that I have written here, that is Porphyra, Polysiphonia, Laminaria, these are the marine water benthophytes. So benthophytes are the bottom dwellers. Then we have epactophytes. Epactophytes are algae which are found on the shore of any water body. So the shore algae are called as epactophytes. They are actually difficult to differentiate from the benthophytes, but then they are found only on the shore. They are not found at the bottom of the water body. So they are called as epactophytes or shore algae. And these include some diatoms, Chara, Nitella, Chaetophora, or here I have shown you an example of Maugetia. These are some of the examples of epactophytes or shore algae. The next ones are thermophytes. These are algae which are found in the thermal springs or in water bodies which are having a very high temperature. And these are usually blue-green algae which are adapted to this. Examples include Lyngbya or Mastigocladus, Ephanocapsa. But we do have some Zygnimales order and even some diatoms, that is Basilaриophyceae, which are found in the thermal springs or thermophytes. The next ones are the planktophytes, which are the free floating and the free swimming algae. Now these free floating algae can be either euplanktons or tychoplanktons. Tychoplanktons are algae, they are planktonic algae which are initially attached to a substratum, but later towards the end of their life cycle they get detached and they float. So when they are old they float. Those are called as tychoplanktons. Example is Edogonium or Zygnema or Cladophora, which has been shown over here. Whereas euplanktons, the prefix u says that they are true planktons. They are always found floating throughout their life cycle or throughout their life. These include volvox, which has been shown here, or Pediastrum, or Chlamydomonas, Cendesmus. These are some examples of euplanktons which are always found floating, or they are floating throughout their life cycle. So Cladophora, which is this one which has been shown here, is an example of a tychoplankton, and this is volvox, which is an example of a euplankton, true plankton. And these are planktons which are not always found floating. They are floating only towards the end of their life cycle. Moving on, we have halophytes. Halophytes are organisms or algae which are found in very high saline conditions. A very good example of this is Dunaliella. We also have Chlamydomonas aharenbergi and Stephanoptera. Then we have epiphytes. Epiphytes are algae which are found growing on other plants. Now, one thing to note here is they are not taking any food from the plant. They are only taking support from the plant. So this includes red algae. As you can see in the picture here, we have red algae like Polysiphonia or Delacedia, which are found epiphytic on kelp, that is laminaria. So we have laminaria growing over here, which is a brown algae, and we have Polysiphonia, which is growing on that kelp. So this is an example of an epiphytic algae, or it is an example of epiphyte. In fact, many of the epiphytes or epiphytic or algae which are found in the aquatic systems are algae. Most of them are algae. We do have some epiphytic plants as well, but most of them are algae. The other examples are coleochaete with Chara and Nitella, or we have bulbochaete, Eulothrix. These are found on larger algae. Bulbochaete, Edogonium, Eulothrix, these are found on the larger algae. We have coleochaete, which is found in association with Chara and Nitella. Again, it is an epiphyte. It is found growing on other algae. In fact, Chara and Nitella are also algae, but coleochaete is found growing on Chara and Nitella. All of these are examples of epiphytes. Epiphytes are algae which are found growing on other plants. They are using the other plants as support only. Epizoophytes is the last type of hydrophyte. These are algae which are found growing on aquatic animals. So they can be found on the shells of mollusks or on the fins of fishes. And examples for these include, as you can see here, Cladophora growing on the snails, or we have Basincladia. We can have Stygioclonium, which is found in the gills of fishes. So these are examples of organisms which are found growing on aquatic animals. So under hydrophytes, we have spoken about benthophytes, bottom dwellers, epactophytes, shore algae, thermophytes, which are found in thermal springs, planktophytes, which are the free floating algae. We have halophytes, which are found in high saline conditions, epiphytes, which are found growing on other plants, and epizoophytes, which are found growing on other aquatic animals. These are the different types of hydrophytes. The next group of algae are the edapophytes or the soil algae. Now here again we have two subtypes based on where they are found in the soil. If they are found on the surface of the soil, we call them as saprophytes. And if they are found below the soil surface, that is subterranean, then we call them as cryptophytes. Saprophytes examples include Frischella, Washeria, Botrydium. These are some examples of algae which are found growing on the surface of the soil, as you can see in the picture. Or we have cryptophytes like Formedium, Plectonema, Chlorococcum, which are found just below the soil surface. Please remember, algae cannot grow too deep in the soil layers because then the light will not penetrate. So they are found growing just below the soil surface. The third group of algae are aerophytes, which are subaerial algae. Now, algae cannot survive in air per se because air cannot provide a medium for growth of any organism. So these are subaerial algae, or algae which are found in areas above the soil, above the roots. It could include tree trunks, moist walls, flower pots, anything that is above the surface of soil is called as an aerophyte or subaerial algae. Now, under these, we have epiphyllophytes, which are algae that are found growing on the leaves of other plants. This includes Stomatocrone or Phycopeltis, which is shown over here. or epiphyllophytes, which are found growing on the bark of trees. Usually epiphyllophytes are found mixed with liverworts. Examples include Haplosiphon or Schizothrix, or Trentopolia is a very good example of an epiphyllophyte which is found growing on the bark of trees. And we have lithophytes. Lithophytes are found growing on the artificial surfaces like rocks, walls, flower pots. These are called as lithophytes. So those which are found growing outside on the surface of the rock are called as epilithic algae like Calothrix or Ectocarpus. And those which are found growing inside the rocks, very few grow like that, but those which are found growing inside the rocks include Dalmatella and Podocapsa. These are called as endolithic algae. So under the aerophytes, we have algae that are found in on the leaves, on the bark of trees, and on rocks or walls or flower pots, that is lithophytes. The next group of algae are cryophytes, which are found growing on the snow. Now, this is very, very common. On the snow, we find colored snow. That is because the algae grows over there and it is imparting color to the snow. So, this includes examples like Chlamydomonas nivalis, which gives red color, or this is called as watermelon snow because it gives a pinkish red color. We have Rhaphidonemma, which gives a green color, Chlamydomonas yellowstonensis, Encyclonema, Protoderma. All of these are examples of algae that can grow on snow, and hence the prefix cryophytes. We then have endozoophytes, which are found growing inside other animals, inside the other aquatic animals. So we have Zooxanthella and Zoochlorella, which are found growing inside ciliates or inside Hydra, which has been shown over here, or inside Paramecium, which is found growing inside foraminiferans, sponges. Inside all of these organisms, these algae are growing inside the aquatic animals. That is why they are called as endozoophytes. Endo is inside, zoo is the aquatic animal. We then have endophytes. Endophytes are algae which are found growing inside the plants. An example for this includes Chlorochytrium, which has been shown in the first picture, that grows inside Lemna, Ceratophyllum and other mosses. So this is Chlorochytrium, which is found growing inside the tissues of other organisms, and it is not harming the organism, it is just growing inside these plants. We also have symbiotic endophytes, which are growing in association with other organisms, could be plants or could be other organisms such as fungi. And when they grow in or in association with these organisms, they are they are providing some sort of benefit to that organism. So they are living in a mutually beneficial relationship. That is why they are called as symbiotic algae. So under symbiotic algae, we have lichens like Cytonema, Trentopolia, Chlorella. They live in association with fungi. That is why they are called as lichens. Now this comes under symbiotic association because here the fungus and the algae are benefiting each other. It is a mutually beneficial relationship. So it is a symbiotic kind of endophyte. We also have certain blue-green algae which are living symbiotically with other plants, but I'll not get into the details of that because we are mainly restricting to eukaryotic algae. And the last type of organisms are parasites. Parasites, like the name says, are algae which are growing on other plants or animals as parasites, which means they are absorbing the nutrition from that plant or from the animal and they are harming the animal or the plant in the process. That is why they are put under a separate group, that is parasitic algae. Very few algae are parasitic because algae are capable of producing their own food and they need not absorb food from other plants. But we have found that a very common example is Cephalourose, which is found on the avocado leaves, or this is an avocado leaf that has been shown, or they are known to cause a disease called as leaf spot of tea and coffee, which is very common in Assam. Or we have Entocladia, which is found as a parasite in corals. So Entocladia is an algae which is parasitic to the coral reefs or to the corals. These are examples of algae which are harming their host. That is why they are called as parasites. So these are the different types of algae based on their ecology. Ecologically, we have grouped algae into different classes just based on their habitat, where they live, whether they are in the aquatic systems, whether they are in the soil, on top of the soil, inside the soil, at very low temperature conditions, inside other animals, inside other plants. Just based on this, we have classified or grouped algae into different classes. And this is what comprises the algal ecology. I hope you all have understood this video lecture. Thank you and see you all in the next class.